Stone Age toddlers may have had art lessons. Stone Age toddlers may have attended a form of prehistoric nursery where they were encouraged to develop their creative skills in cave art, say archaeologists. Research indicates young children express themselves in an ancient form of finger painting. Archaeologists at one of the most famous prehistoric caves in France have discovered that children were actively helped to express themselves through finger fluting, running fingers over soft red clay to produce decorative crisscrossing lines, zigzags, and swirls. In 2006, Leslie Van Gelder of Walden University unveiled a new technique for identifying the fluting's artists, developed after measuring and analyzing the hands of thousands of contemporary people. By measuring the width of the fluting, made by three middle fingers, index, middle, and ring, it is possible to distinguish between individuals. The research into finger measurement also proved that any flutings less than 34 millimeters, 1.3 inches, wide were made by children under the age of 7. Van Gelder also found that the shapes of the top edges of the fingers allowed them to determine the gender of certain flutings creators. Based on this system, they concluded that women and children were responsible for many of the flutings. The drawings, including depictions of mammoths, form just a small proportion of the art found within the 5-mile cave system. The majority of the drawings are flutings covering the walls and roofs. One chamber is so rich in flutings by children it is believed to be in an area set aside for them. The marks of 4 children estimated to be aged between 2 and 7 have been identified there. It suggests it was a special place for children. Adults were there, but the vast majority of the artwork is by children, says Jess Cooney, a PhD student at the university's archaeology department. It's speculation, but I think in this particular chamber, children were encouraged to make more art than adults. It could have been a playroom where the children gathered or a room for practice. Or it could have been a room used for a ritual for particular children, perhaps an initiation of sorts. The juxtaposition of the flutings of individuals indicates the relationship between the cave dwellers, the researchers say. For example, the markings show that one 7-year-old girl was most often in the company of the smallest of adults, probably a male and possibly an older brother. Some of the children's flutings are high up on walls and on the ceiling, so they must have been held up to make them or have been sitting on someone's shoulders, says Cooney. Flutings by the 2-year-old suggest the child's hand was guided by an adult, Cooney said. The flutings and fingers are very controlled, which is highly unusual for a child of that age, and suggests it was being taught. The research shows us that children were everywhere, even the deepest, darkest caves, furthest from the entrance. They were so involved in the art, you really begin to question how heavily they were involved in everyday life. The art shows us that it's not an activity where children were running amok. It shows collaboration between children and adults encouraging children to make these marks. This was a communal activity. We don't know why people made them. We can make guesses, like that they were for initiation rituals for training of some kind, or simply something to do on a rainy day. Chart directions. Now that you have read the article, think about the claims or best guesses the authors made. What evidence did they use to make these claims? In the space provided, summarize the evidence or claim that matches up with the claim or evidence provided. In other words, if you're given a claim, find the evidence. If you are given evidence, find the claim.